Well, welcome back. We're year two of PACA 2, and glad to see everybody back and joining again. And we want to get off to a good start here to kind of catch up on 2025 and see what all happened. And then also a little bit of history, just for those of you that are new and joining us. This is the brainchild of Brooks Johnson, and he started it after 2016 Olympics when he felt that the USA coaches, the private coaches, I should say, the private coaches were not getting the kind of accommodations and uh, access to athletes in major competitions and so forth. And so he was not a happy camper about that. And so he took it up with USATF and was able to get it so that now private coaches are a main part of the access with the passes on at World Championship, especially. Olympics get to be a little tight because of the limits the USOPC puts on us. But again, he started something here with coaching education because at the time in 2016, there were only maybe five or six coaches that were coaching a majority of the medalists for Team USA. And we got to keep in mind that Team USA is that it's not all the athletes that people coach, because through NC2A, we are coaching a lot of the world. But again, at the major meets, they go back into their colors and not the red, white, and blue colors. So we have to keep in mind that irregularity, shall we say, with the numbers. But this is called Podium Athlete Coaches Association. And it's not so much a membership that you've got to join or anything like that. It's just we get together on Wednesday nights and we chat and talk about either have athletes join us, coaches join us. If there's topics that you want to talk about, then definitely let me know so that we can get some experts in on that and just kind of brainstorm back and forth. It's a combination of high school coaches, college coaches, professional, retired, anybody that loves track and field is welcome. There's no charge. And I do post it on my Facebook and on Coaches Collab. Usually every Sunday or Monday, the link goes up. And so as a result, you can look at Sue Humphrey on Facebook, or again, if there's a mailing list, but a lot of it is duplicates. So just figure that from now on, we're going to be back into the swing of things and going from there. And today's topic is going to be kind of a fun one from the history here from Tokyo as to how our performers did in the 400 hurdles. And we've had Coach Joanna Hayes on several times over the last several years, chatting about some of the training and some of her athletes that she's working with and so on. And tonight we're very fortunate to have two of those athletes with us to join her, and that's Jasmine Jones and Rye Benjamin. So we want to thank them for joining us. And I finally got all of last year posted up on YouTube. So any of you that have wanted to hear the recordings of last year, and remember, before that, we were under USATF's Zoom, and they won't release the videos for whatever reason. So all I have access to are the Zooms that we took last season. And so those are available on YouTube. And all you have to do, if you could put in PACA or you can put in gold medal coaches, PACA calls. And there's like 18, I think, of them up there. So that is there for you, and I'll get them up every week so we keep current with that. But enough housekeeping. Let's get on with track and field now with that. So, Joanna, thanks again for joining us. And you want to kind of take us through the start here a bit as to how Tokyo was for you as a coach.
Well, I guess it was fun. I think, I guess it turned out well. I think that I had Ryan Jasmine and a couple, Tadeo Jora, he's from Great Britain, and a hurdler from UCLA who runs for Belgium. So I had one of each in the hurdle event, one male, one female. So For me, Tokyo was fun. Obviously, I've been doing this a long time, and I got to this time got to see Tokyo in 21. Rye was there, obviously, and it was COVID, so there was a completely different experience for us than had ever been, and so we didn't get to see Tokyo. But this time, I got to spend a lot of time hanging out, family, friends, and enjoying. So I think there was not any stress for me. I was nervous. I guess more so for Jasmine than for Rye, but I'm always nervous in general. So that's the hardest part for me was just being nervous. But outside of that, I had a great time. I thought that they did really well, and that both of these two right here really exhibited some great running, some great focus throughout. And obviously, Jasmine's a newbie. It was her second, but it's still her second um, championship, and she's done really well in both, but she's still learning the event. So we can talk more about that later. But overall, I think that they both did a really good job and made my job easy. Just I got to spend a lot of time kind of hanging out.
Even when you were riding on the subways?
Even when I got lost, I was I still was having fun.
That was it. So, well, Jasmine, like Joanna said, you're kind of the youngster to the event, even though you are a college graduate. So, congratulations on that and the last two seasons.
Thank you.
Fourth at the Olympic Games, and that was your first major championship, right?
Yes, that was the year I graduated college.
Okay, and then this year on the podium, and how was that experience for you?
Yeah, that was honestly fantastic. I know I have nothing, or I only have the Olympic Games to really compare it to, but looking back on it, honestly, every single aspect of the Tokyo Games was like, or the Tokyo Championship was great. I really liked my experience in general. I liked the way that we were like that we had the meet planned out. I think my coach and I really planned like the week well so that the practices leading up to it and like just the rest days and even the treatment were all timed perfectly and everything was accessible and easy. So I think it put me at peace of mind and put me in a great place to really compete.
Excellent. Yeah, no, I was there in Tokyo in 21, and like Joanna said, I think I walked to the corner 7-Eleven and back, and that was my tour of Tokyo, and that was
So
all they let us do. So it was a little bit restricted.
yeah.
Rye, you had kind of a mixed experience there, I think. How would you reflect on Tokyo?
Which one? Like LA? I'm sorry. Look, this recent Tokyo
This
or
recent one, yeah, 2025.
um, it was quite interesting. I feel like we started the year pretty well and it just things kind of deteriorated, but they didn't. So going into this championship, like I felt like I wasn't as prepared as I was for Paris, but I think that, and I even told Coach Hayes, and I commend her like a lot for this, is the preparation that she and the plan that she put together, a month out, 6 weeks out, leading into Tokyo, which put us in a good position to do well at the meet, given the circumstances of the year. So, I mean, all in all, it was a lot of fun. It was hot, but I think it was a great experience.
Well, I'm sitting in Phoenix, Arizona, so you guys don't talk to me about hot, but no, I hear you. I definitely know. How would you compare the having a crowd this time compared to 21?
Honestly, the Japanese are really interesting people. It's like the crowd's there, but they're just so respectful that, it wasn't, and I don't know if it's because I was just so focused I didn't really realize it as much, but it wasn't as loud as Paris for sure, but I mean, they were very engaging and I mean, it's always good to have people there to come and support and watch and you see your friends and some family in the stands, but besides that, like I didn't really like I didn't really yeah, the crowd wasn't really much of a factor for me in a sense and
Oh, okay.
for any of us because we're American and of course they're going to cheer for their own. I mean, out of respect, they cheer for everyone, but
Yeah.
it wasn't like, it wasn't like it was like Worlds in 22 where we were home and things got
Yes.
really loud when we got introduced and whatnot.
I also,
Right.
Ryan, you don't really hear it because you're locked in, but when they say your name, they're pretty loud for you. I gotta be honest. I think, but when they're introducing you, you're already in your zone. So you hear them, but I think you don't fully hear them because I think they got pretty loud for Rye.
Well, I would hope so, definitely. That's the thing. I'm
Cool.
like, goodness, they better with that. So, Jasmine, you come from Atlanta, Georgia, is that right?
Yes.
So, what takes you from Atlanta, Georgia to USC?
I know people always say it's like a huge change, but I visited LA a bunch of times. My grandparents live in Santa Barbara, which is like an hour and a half drive away. So it didn't feel like I was too far from home, but really just like USC kind of had like the best of both worlds for what I wanted to do and wanted to study. I obviously track was a big factor into it, but I ended up studying biology and a minor in musical theater, so I felt like USC actually had a pretty good like arts culture and a good theater program, so that was actually a big draw too.
So, are you a musical performer also?
At the moment, no, but it's always my back pocket.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. What,
big interest.
singing or what?
I was primarily a dancer, but USC I was able to like practice my
Nice,
singing and acting a
nice.
little bit more.
Now, both your parents were either pro or collegiate athletes, is that right?
Yes.
So, was that any kind of pressure on you to be in sports, or did that
Um,
just come with you?
I wouldn't say pressure. Yeah, I think it just was part of like the way we grew up. Our dad was coaching a football at the high school we went to. So when we like got into high school and did track, he kind of learned the sport through us and kind of like switched over from coaching football to track also. So that was fun. He also coached a little bit on our like summer team. So he was always kind of really involved in our sports journey, but it wasn't really pushing it. It was just kind of like encouraging us. So it wasn't too much pressure, no.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you have that strong athletic focus at home, it can be one way or the other. It's
Right. But it
so
was a
I
good
didn't
balance.
didn't know what the dance switch hit you over to dance right away.
Yeah.
Rye, you kind of go back and forth between the open sprints and then the hurdles. Um, or what are we going to see next year? You've kind of hinted on some things. You,
Yeah, I think next year we're gonna run a couple fours. Well, try to focus on the four a little bit, since it's not really that of much of an important year.
mhm,
Hopefully I can run some 200s as well. I don't think Coach Hayes is too keen on that for me, but I'm keen on it myself.
right?
And I like to remind myself sometimes that I'm actually the boss. She's not.
I don't know why you remind himself that, but okay. Rye's gonna have to leave a little
but
early, so when he's gone, we'll make sure we go back.
but but no, she's definitely the boss. But yeah, I think we're gonna focus on the four next year. We'll still hurdle, is what we discussed, because I don't want to spend an entire year not doing that, because playing catch up in 2027, it's definitely not going to be ideal.
Mhm.
But I think the focus is to run the four next year and just have a little bit of fun and change things up, because I think these last, what, 4 or 5, let's just say 6 years, we've been doing the same thing. And I find myself getting these injuries because of the monotony of hurdling. So that's been kind of difficult to deal with these last 2 years. So I think switching it up will be very, very good and a lot of fun, and just eases the pressure and allow us to do something fun, because 2027, I mean, not I think, we definitely have to hunker down there and in preparation for 2028.
Right, right. Excellent. Well, you say the hurdling has been a little monotonous. So does that mean the 110s are out?
Yeah, definitely out. I mean, I like to joke around with those guys, but I mean, what they're doing right now is just on another level. And I feel as though you definitely can't make any mistakes. I mean, you'd have to be godly talented to beat those guys, but uh, I mean, for someone who doesn't aggressively,
Mhm.
and like I'm not in that position consistently, it's going to be hard to make the case to run the
Yeah.
110s.
Well, I think they're glad to hear that, and I don't think Grant's going to come this way. So I think you're all pretty safe. We'll see on that. Joanna, how has it been now working with pro athletes and now as a college director? That's a whole different responsibility.
Yeah, being a director is different than being an assistant. Obviously, right? I'm responsible for a lot more people The buck definitely stops with me in that regard in terms of the team and the decisions dynamic and the pros and cons of good and bad. So I do think that I've hired an excellent staff. I believe that my staff has my back and has the same goals and intentions with the team that I have. We have this, we're like-minded. We're, athlete first. We really want to focus on their development and their futures on and off the track and field. So I think they have been really what helps me out a lot. They'll come out, some of them come out with the pros, but I believe that what I've done in the past as an assistant and having, so many athletes coming in and out of our pro system and some that are still in it. Obviously, Rye has been around a long time. And so um, making the transition. I'm
Whoa.
sorry, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase.
He was a baby
I has been
there.
around since the beginning of my elite coaching. Rye
Yeah.
was the
Yeah,
first
I'm just kidding.
athlete, right? But yes, one of the first. Like Rye was like the beginning. So it really all started with Rye. So, it all started when Rye's done, I'm done. Just kidding, Jasmine. Forever, you and me. But no, I just having that experience of being able to balance the morning workouts there and then traveling with them and doing all those things for years. I've really become really good at one, compartmentalizing, and two, blending. And what I mean by that is I can take something great, something that's happening really bad, and go to something great and be the same person and give the same energy to all the situations, because it's not fair. I will honestly say when Rye hit that hurdle, I was freaking out. But then when they DQ'd him, the first thing I thought was, first, oh my God, like we gotta get this taken care of. But if we don't, I gotta be there for Jazz. Jazz is gonna do great. I know it. So how I have to be able to balance my disappointment for Rye, but my happiness for Jazz, because I already knew she was gonna medal, right? So I immediately went to focus, you gotta make a decision here, right? But it worked out, and Rye, we were back, and it was gonna probably be ugly for some people if they didn't overturn it, but I still would have had my relationship with Jazz. So at the end of the day, the morning time is for the pros. I have a pretty big group, the haystack, right? And a lot of them come out there. What they do is they create the balance for me to be able to be myself and to say things that I can't say to the college coaches who know you can't say certain things to them. I think I told Raven Rogers one day, she was like, "I can't believe you said that to me." I said, "Well, Raven, this is not a safe space. Like I
Yeah.
don't, I can say what I want you. You can't tell on me, right?" In a joking manner, but that allows me to have more fun. And these guys come out there, they have fun and they joke around, but right, yeah, that's their job.
Yeah.
They mean
Yeah.
business, right? So then it prepares me for, okay, now 1 o'clock, I got to deal with these kids and they're going to be late for this. And I got an exam and they have different set of problems or occurrences and issues. So I enjoy being able to do both. And the blending just comes in when I bring my kids around. When Jasmine's around, the other kids want to come out and watch practice and ride. They get to see them. They come out and they see them on the track and they want to talk to them, right? So it is a beautiful blend of elite coaching and collegiate coaching and just having a great staff to allow me to succeed. UCLA was a big job to take, and I took it because it's my alma mater. That's where I was raised up, champions made there, and that's really what it was about for me. So I'm trying to give that same experience to these current student athletes.
Excellent. Yeah, because like you say, you were an athlete at UCLA and hurdled both the long and the short,
Yeah.
obviously. And we're kind of successful in those. And then as a result, now go to SC, which was interesting because that was like the arch enemy or the rival, if you will. And
Yes.
then now back to UCLA. So
That's them
that,
being the enemy. So we're all on the same page. No,
yeah, yes. So now we're back with the, what is it, blue and
blue
gold?
and gold.
Blue and gold all the way. So excellent. Jasmine, what have you found as a difference between the college and the pro now, other than Joanna's language?
Yeah, I feel like my transition was actually pretty smooth. Getting to keep my coach was a huge made the process so much easier, I think, especially staying in the same city. So it was really just like a switch of getting to put all my energy into track and not just like, okay, track is this hours of the day, then I go straight to class, straight to homework, I forgot to eat in there. Like it's really just all about like how my body's feeling, what training and what treatment I can get done that day and how I can recover for the next day. So it's honestly much much more streamlined than college life. I'm not gonna say easier because it's a little bit higher stakes, but it's much more like focused.
So how would you, without, yeah, not every second, but I mean, how would you describe an average day, let's say for you now in preseason?
Yeah. Well, right now I'm recovering from a little injury that we finally got to fix from Worlds, but so I'm in a boot. But
Oh, okay.
yeah. So an average day will kind of just look like waking up, um, not too early, probably around like 9 or so, and then breakfast. And honestly, well, actually, whatever I want right now. But coming up
Yeah,
soon, it's gonna be
let's say last year, then what would your average day be?
yeah, probably wake up at a reasonable time, hang out for a little bit, do a quick workout, nothing crazy because it's gonna be crunch time pretty soon, and then hang out with friends later in the day. But once the season starts, it's much more structured.
Right, right, definitely. So are you pretty much at the track all day?
Yeah, well, practices from like two, or sorry, from 10 to 2-ish, including weights, and then after that, some treatment. So probably get home by 5, and then time for dinner and like a wind down recovery.
Right, right. Yeah, no, it's definitely a full-time job, like you say.
Yeah.
Rye, how was your transition from college to pro?
Um, I think it wasn't that bad because I had Michael at the time and we both left, me, Mike, and Kendall left school at the same time. So and we still had an extra year left to go to class. Because I went pro my junior year, Mike went pro his sophomore year.
Oh,
So our transition it was pretty smooth. I mean, it obviously was hard, having to go to school and be a pro and not be a part of like the collegiate scene anymore. But I think our transition was pretty smooth because Coach Hayes, Coach Watts, and Coach Carroll kind of created that structure, and we still had that collegiate structure going into our pro season from our collegiate season. So my transition wasn't that difficult. Um, I think as athletes, like we were really focused and we really wanted to do well. So it wasn't all that hard, for either of us. So yeah, I think my transition was not the normal transition, but at the same time, like you have to know that there's definitely a difference between competing collegiately and competing as a professional athlete. And I think we learned that as we went along throughout the year and on the circuit because that year was just kind of crazy because we had Doha that year and the year was like unnecessarily long,
mm,
which is something we've never done before. And for that to be our experience as newfound professional athletes was a bit difficult, but I think I did relatively well considering the year, and um yeah.
hmm. What did you say? You said the structure. Do you feel that structure plays a big part in your life?
Yeah, it definitely does. It's you can have structure, but I think if you don't have the discipline to follow the structure, it's kind of pointless. Um, but for me, it was more so like I just knew where I wanted to be and what I wanted to achieve and the work that it took to get there. So, I mean, for me, it was easy, in
Mhm.
terms of that, doing the right things. It took a while for me to understand what it was like to be a pro, which is eating the right things, going to sleep at a moderate time, not necessarily like involving yourself in too much, um, activities outside of what you have to do, because I mean we're in LA and I mean there's a lot to do here, so the distractions are plenty. So having the discipline to say, hey, like, no, I can't go out this weekend, or I'm not drinking, or I'm not doing this, or I'm not doing that. I mean, over time it just became kind of ingrained, and it takes you 30 days to develop a habit. So that habit kind of it developed, and I think that is what made us so successful so early on. um and I think for me that's kind of what helped, is knowing like, okay, this is what I want to achieve and this is what it's going to take to get there.
Excellent, excellent. Are you did anybody mentor you through that, or were you figuring it out on your own?
It's you have Coach Hayes and Coach Watts. I mean, by this time, Coach Carroll had left because she took the job at Georgia. So,
Mhm.
I mean, we had them, but mostly, we had each other. I don't know if you guys ever meet Michael Norman. He's a very, very type A kind of guy.
Uh-huh.
and he walks a very, very, very fine line, and there's no deterrence, and there's no like second guessing anything with him. So if he says, hey, like this is the route we're gonna take, like you're taking that route and there's no deviation whatsoever. So,
Hmm.
like following him and how he was really helped me because like I'm really easygoing. If someone says, hey, let's let's go do this, I'm like, like it's not that bad. I think I can get home and sleep for 6 hours and I'll be fine. But with Michael, it was just like, hell no, I'm going to bed at 10, and there's
Uh-huh.
just I'm not gonna. So it was easy to follow that when that's the example. And it's crazy because Michael's probably a couple months younger than I am, but just following him and seeing how he approached being a professional helped me be a better professional myself.
Excellent. That's really something. Now, without getting into his business and life, are we going to ever see him again, or how are
Yeah,
things?
Michael's good. I think Michael has, he doesn't really let people know what his situation is on you know, on the professional side. He's been dealing with a really bad injury for, the better
Yeah.
half of a year now.
Uh-huh.
And it just he's just been dealing with compounding injuries that he doesn't really let people know about. So he has made the switch. We're all sad about it. He's gone down to University of Texas with Coach Flo, so he'll be
Oh,
there. But I mean, Michael's just been dealing with some really, really bad injuries,
yeah.
and he's finally like feeling like himself again and back healthy. So
Well, good.
he should be back running next year. Oh, well,
Great.
yeah, next season.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
Joanna, you come from the Bobby Kersey tree of lineage here. And how would you say that Bobby has affected your coaching or your style?
I would say, I think like when I was younger, they used to call me Bobby Jr. Like, oh, and I would help out the pros when they were out there when I kind of first retired. But I think that Bobby and I are different in a lot of ways and we're similar in a lot of ways, right? So I think you can't have a great coach and have great success with the coach where you don't take some of those traits and some of those characteristics and beliefs with you. So having him as my coach, I do a lot of the stuff that he does. I still think that volume is important. I think it's just has to be done in different ways. I think there's things that we didn't do that I've learned from other coaches, like with Coach Carroll, there's more speed power element to some of the things that I do. So over the years, I've evolved in different ideas in different ways. But yeah, he's more the foundation for me. He and my high school coach who passed away years ago, but Bobby's like the foundation to me. And I spent a lot of time as well during the last few years with Brooks, and Brooks really prepared me to help coach Raven, right? So all the coaches that I spend time with, I take something from, but it's become my own unique way of doing it. Bobby's a yeller. I'm a yeller, but I'm more of a motivational yeller, right? Bobby just yells at you because he's bored. But I think that it motivated us in a different way, right? So I look at some of his workouts and I call him and I talk to him. Even with Jazz, I'm like, Bobby, I'm in this weird place with Jasmine. Let's talk about it, right? Because she's still trying to figure some things out. And so he gave me some tips and it really helped out. And so I'll go to Bobby if I need to. I don't go to him all the time because I know he has his thing and I have mine, and I really feel confident in what I'm doing. But when I am definitely like, I need to talk to somebody, Bobby is that first call for me always because I just know that the amount of people he's coached and the amount of years he's done it, he's seen it all. So anything that I bring him, he's already seen it. So why would I rack my brain and stress for 4 weeks when I could just pick up the phone and call Bobby and say, hey, XYZ. What are your thoughts? And then he may say, do ABC. And then I may say, okay, I'm going to do A and B. We're going to wait on C, right? And I'll put that
Yeah.
in the back of my brain because whatever reason. So yeah, Bobby has been an amazing mentor, family person for me, like a figure in my life that will never be gone and with
Right.
me and the things that we do and learn together. So yeah, we're similar, but definitely not the same.
Not the same. Now, you've mentioned Raven Rogers a few times. Give us a little on this 800 training, or how did that all take place?
Yeah, Raven called last year, a little bit, like September, August last year. We talked and she wanted to make some changes, and she thought that what she'd seen and what she'd heard about me, I believe she talked to Kendall and a few other people, just she's looking for something, a little bit different connection with the coach, and thought that I could bring that. And we talked a lot, and I really liked her. And I thought that she would bring a great element to the group with not only her maturity and experience, but just her energy and her vibe. So she came out. It's been great. I had coached 800 runner years ago, and Brooks, it was like, I'm like, where's all my Brooks stuff? Where's my notes? Where's my notes from Brooks, right? And Brooks taught me a lot about the eight. I still have more to learn. And Raven helped me coach her as well. I'm like, certain things I don't know yet, but I'm not a distance coach, although Raven did run the
She's a
Manhattan
four.
Mile and ran 4:22 and did a great job and was sixth overall. So, and ran 51.9 this year. So, in 57.5, and I mean 157.5. So, had a good year. So, I'm excited about next year. But for me, I feel like it's never too late to learn anything. And even with Rye this year, I've coached at 400. We've done it around, but we're making some changes. So he and I have to sit down and discuss what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and what makes the most sense for him in this different type of year. But to his point earlier, we're going to have a lot of fun. He knows how to run the 400. I don't have to learn how to coach the 400, but he and I have to talk about how we want to run it, when and where, and what our goals are. So I'm excited about doing something a little different. And yeah, the 200 is a different conversation, and we'll see about that. But we'll probably run at least one, maybe two.
We've got it down for you, Rise. So at least you get one or two of them in there. Uh, Jasmine, are you going to do more with both hurdles, or are you just 400 hurdler now?
I think the 100 hurdles I might be taking a break from, but the 60 hurdles indoors definitely still on the docket.
Oh, okay. So, assuming the foot or whatever is going to be better and okay, are you looking at an indoor season this year, or what are your thoughts now for 26?
Yeah, I think next year's a good, like kind of like I mentioned, is a good year to sort of get back into something that I've taken a break from. So definitely planning on getting back in the 60 hurdles and seeing what that looks like um after a year and and a half or so. So
Yeah,
excited
right.
to try.
Yeah, because you kind of backed off of it this last, what, year and a half or 2 years?
Yeah,
Short.
I guess year.
Well, she didn't run him because she had a back injury, and we didn't train for them, and then a foot injury. So I would say, Jazz, we did not run 60 hurdles this year because of choice. We ran because of circumstances. We didn't run because of circumstances. So I would just speak for her when I say, if she's always in the running to run the 60 hurdles, right? It's
Okay.
something that I feel like she has a huge upside and that she can do big things in. I Jasmine can win the world in the 60 hurdles. She can do anything in the 60 hurdles. It's just when we get to hurdles 7 and 8, they they don't like her. And so, but I like the combo with 60 hurdles. It helps keep her speed up, gives her something more exciting to do. And it's not just 400 hurdles, it's something completely different. And
Yeah.
I think that that's her, she's a sprinter. That's her base, that's her gift. We have had to
I'm glad to hear you say
if
that.
you're welcome, but we've had to give the endurance gift to her. Like the endurance is what we've worked. She can do it, but it's been hard. It's been a very big shift when she started training for the 400 hurdles, coming from a speed background, and
Yeah.
so there's a lot more there. But naturally, Jasmine is very fast, and I don't want to give those 60 hurdles up for her because I want her to have that enjoyment. Because the 400 hurdles, Ryan, I'm sure would agree, they're not super fun, right? They're much harder than running short hurdles. So I want Jazz to continue to have that 60 hurdle experience.
Well, good. And like you say, the speed factor definitely uh keeps it going on that, because you got to be alert or else boom, there you go.
Right.
How have you embraced the distance part of getting ready for the 400 hurdles? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the addition of Raven has been a huge help with that. Without Raven, it really like the my senior year, 2024, I really trained on my own. Trying to just like build up my endurance by myself, kind of just like letting my friends cheer me on from the field
Mm,
after the workouts had finished for the short hurdles. But having Raven be there this year and our whole training group, honestly, having getting that 400 base down really was helpful, especially because she's so experienced and seasoned and knows how to deal with the pain of a 400 a 400-meter workout or 400 plus. So having her there to kind of like steady me when I feel like I'm like I'm not gonna be able to make it through this week.
Right.
And just learn from her experience, and her like grit has been really helpful for sure. And even Rye. Rye's been honestly a huge inspiration for Into Hurdles in general. So having him there helps too a little bit.
I was about to disown you if you didn't say that.
Rye helps. Rye does help Jazz. He'll talk her through things. Sometimes I'm like, go talk to her, kind of help her the feeling. I know that I've run it. I know the feeling, but Rye lives it every day, and he can explain things sometimes a little differently. And sometimes it's just better coming from a teammate. And
Right.
Rye, although he probably would never be a coach, he is really good at the coaching aspect of the event.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's mean, so you don't want him to be your coach, but
He tells it like it is, huh? With
he
that?
does. Absolutely. Jazz, he does, right? He's
Yeah.
like, just do it. What do you just do? He's like, do it right the first time. You only have one rep like me, and he's like,
Right.
he does not sugarcoat much, which I think is also helpful though when you're in an event like that, because no one else is going to sugarcoat it when that gun goes off.
Right.
Right, right. No, and it's a neat dynamic that you guys have. And I think, like you say, it's sometimes that Rye and Jasmine can help each other, just mutual share of pain. And even though you, Joanna, know the event, it's been a while. And so as a result, they can help each other. That's great. And then Raven, I've known her since high school, so she definitely adds a different dynamic with that. So that's great that you guys have that kind of a good group, a good working. How many pro athletes do you have, Joanna?
I have currently 8 and one loading. So you'll find that out later. But yeah, eight
Eight,
plus
eight.
one. If you play spades, 8 to possible, but I think it's a pretty, really extremely strong possible. So we
We have no announcements here today.
nothing today, but
Oh,
loading.
okay.
Yeah.
We'll wait. We'll wait on that one then. Jasmine, how would you or how important is your mental preparation for a meet?
It's super important. Yeah. I think like in Tokyo, making sure to like stay calm and even have a little bit of balance of being able to go outside even because just worrying about my legs all day and body can kind of make me feel like I'm going crazy.
Yeah.
So just walking not too far, but just like getting some fresh air and feeling my friendships and like see my family a little bit during that like super intense competition window is really important for me.
How do you prepare? Do you have some strategies that work well?
Um, honestly, the I just think about the training that I have like during the season. I kept a little bit of a journal, like writing down my workouts, was one of Coach's suggestions, just to look back on to kind of like remember all the hard work I put in. So having that to reference and the confidence that that gives me, it honestly like takes away a lot of like the anxiety and just lets the nerves that are left be more of like a fuel than like a than a deterrent.
Excellent. Yeah, no, it seems that journaling is now becoming a little more out front, let's say. Not that it's a new habit, but people are now sharing that they do it more. So that's interesting.
Mhm.
Rye, how about you in mental preparation? What works with you?
It's funny you asked that. So there's someone here right now that's listening. His name is Andre Chapman Jr. Um, so throughout my years, I think I do a really good job compartmentalizing things, and I think I also learned how to um, really suffer and experience the things that I experienced on my own. But I think it came to a certain point after 2021 where I just needed to um, talk to someone. And Andre does mental performance coaching
Mm,
for athletes. We went to UCLA together, and he's now kind of embraced the full side of mental performance coaching. So, yeah, I would like to think that like I was his guinea pig going into my seasons post 2021, and just like talking to him and figuring out what it is that I want and the pressures and whatnot. But I think for me, when I'm at certain meets now and when I'm sat in the room, especially during a world championships where, now the event's like spaced out throughout a week. So you'll go through moments where, it's meet day and you get all the meet day nerves, and you're just kind of anxious to go out there, and you go through it and you run the first round and you're just like, oh, like I don't even know what I was nervous for. Like it's fine. Then you have that day break and you come down and everything's all good, but then you go to sleep that night and it's like, you wait the entire day because we run at night, and you're just antsy and you're walking around. And I just kind of found that, you know, I had to just really talk to myself and ask myself, like, what is it that you're fearful of? And for me, it was, I had such an attachment to a specific or desired outcome because the previous years where I competed, I either didn't win or I got second or I got third. And, that was because, I was, injured for some of those seasons. And, like I just kind of let my desire to prove everyone wrong drive me to a place where I just wasn't enjoying it. So
Mm.
I think I kind of stepped away from having, such an attachment to a desired outcome, and just, being there and being just having fun. Uh, and I remember I told Coach Hayes 2024, I was just like, yeah, I don't even care anymore. Like, I just want to have fun. Let's have fun. Let's just do what we do, and let's just see if we can, go out there and win this thing. And, I remember specifically the day of the Olympic final. I'm like warming up, and I'm like laughing and joking around with everyone under the tent. Like, you'd think that I don't have to run that day. And she looks at me, and I look at her, and I was like, well, I was like it's 45 seconds or bust, I guess. And she laughed, and I laughed, and I just went out there. And then I like to joke around with her, like, if I don't win, I'm gonna fire you. But but that hasn't happened. And even if I don't win, I think Coach Hayes and I just have such a bond, and we've been through so much together, as athlete and coach, that there's it's just inseparable. It's an inseparable relationship between the both of us. But I think for me, it's just maturing and over the years, and knowing like what works for me. And I think self-talk is extremely important. I think as an athlete, how you speak to yourself and how you mentally go into track meets definitely make the difference, because you can prepare all you want, but fear is a poison. And once you start allowing that fear to consume the way you think and how you perform, it doesn't matter how good you are, you won't win.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of been my mental approach going into each season. Is just really having conversations with myself, knowing what I want to accomplish, and just proving myself right, and not necessarily proving other people wrong.
That's something, because after 21 or in 21 I felt so bad for you, because I was like, you're taking all this on like the world is against you, and yet we were excited and supporting you, and I just, as a spectator, really, you hit my heart on that, I'll be honest, and to see, and I've known Joanna since God knows track was created, but to see how you've rebounded and stuff, and this whole the way you explained it is really, really inspiring, because that's the way you come across now publicly, at least on interviews and things, is more casual, more carefree, and not so intense. So whatever you and Andre are doing and all is definitely taking over, and doing well, definitely. So that's exciting, as you're going forward. Uh, and group, anybody, if you guys have any questions for our guests, please put them in the chat, or raise your hand. Actually, it'd be better. Raise your what do you call it? Your fake hand there, and we'll entertain those, because I'm just going through my questions right now with everything. Al, you've got a question?
Yeah, of course, Brooks and I were very tight. Uh, uh, we became very tight in the early 80s, and he was my mentor, and he believed in what I believed in as far as volume and intensity in the middle distances, and it helped my 400 hurdlers that I had at Mississippi State and Florida State. I had um, Kim Batten for a while,
It was pretty good.
and but what I learned, and I want you guys to, and I taught, I was the head of coaches education for a long time in the endurance, but also in biomechanics and physiology. And Brooks made me be the one that he could say, let's let the redheaded white boy with the glasses explain what I'm trying to tell you. And that's the way he would usually do it in a big meeting. And what happened, what he convinced me and Gary Winkler and several others, but I helped AROP and I helped LSU girl that ran the 800 this year as far as how to approach training. There has to be a point, and our female world record holder in the 400 hurdles made the comment that the hardest part of her race was the maybe the last hurdle and then the 40 meters into the finish line. Well, what was happening in training is that you have to be able to recruit different muscle fibers than the people you're beating. You have to call on secondary muscle fibers to finish the end of the 800, the end of really any race, but especially the 800 and the 400 hurdles. I think that's a coin toss which one is the toughest race to finish. And Marco wasn't finishing the 800 until I convinced his coach, who was my athlete as well, and the LSU girl whose coach was my athlete here, and even Kim Batten, that you have to put workouts together that, as Rai said, you're going to suffer in certain sessions so that you can finish those races. And I think Jasmine said it perfectly, that having that 800-meter runner there, you know, made her understand how much training is psychologically important to be able to finish and have to be the workouts. And Joanna knows that, you have to be able to put workouts together that, that in the end of the race, that they have to be able to recruit muscle fibers and keep their biomechanics where they have to be. In other words, muscles are basically lengthening and the rate at which they move and shorten. And when you put workouts together, you better put workouts together that they're going to have to use secondary muscles fibers that they don't primarily use early in the race, and otherwise they won't be there. And once Marco Arop did, a Canadian that I had that I helped with, he finally finished and learned to finish that and ran that 141 and became so you guys can talk about that a little bit, the kind of how difficult those sessions are to be able to finish those things, and especially right after you hit that hurdle. You had to go to secondary fibers to finish that race the way you did.
So, Rye, the baton is to you there on why don't you take us through the last two hurdles as to how you felt or what you felt, if you don't mind.
Um, yeah, I feel so it's interesting how everything played out going into that final with, being out there in lane 8 um and knowing how fast, the race was going to be because I mean, I think it all started early in the year when we ran at Oslo. I think I think the focus this year was to break the world record, and I think that's why, you know, those 300s were run earlier this year by Karsten. And if not to break the world record, to set up the race to where, you know, you can come through pretty fast through three. So I think it all started there, and just looking at splits and touchdowns through the rounds, because usually everyone tries to set their race up through the rounds, and you work on different things based on what round you're in. So I know for us, Coach Hayes will be like, all right, like I need you to figure out, you know, I need you to set up the first four hurdles. Um, and, you know, I need you to be around like what you're going to be in the final race. And, you know, once you get to eight, you can kind of just play around and see what you want to do coming home. And then other races will work on the back half where, you know, we run the last few hurdles and you know, we still run the first three, the first four, but it's not as intentful because it's just based on what she says and what she wants me to do. Um, I think going into that final, I knew that Carson was going to be fast to eight, and I had no intentions of seeing him at hurdle eight because I knew if I saw him at hurdle eight, it'll be a really tough race, the last two hurdles. So, I mean, I was like pretty much, you know, balls to the wall, like running through eight hurdles. So, those last two hurdles, I think I just had we didn't do enough second half work because of how I had an injury that I was dealing with going into USA's and post USA's with my quad that kind of prevented me from hurdling and doing much running leading up into Worlds. So we didn't have the time to work on that second half as we did, you know, in previous years. I think we did a really great job beginning of the year working on the first half, running those 300 hurdles, and then running the first four at practice, and then drilling my non-dominant leg to get ready because we know that if I run how I'm supposed to run, I'm gonna be 12 to 4 and 12 to 5, right, Coach Hayes?
Yeah.
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 So going into the final, I knew that if I was 12 to 4 and 12 to 5, but I ended up being 12 to 3 actually, sorry.
The normal, his natural would be 12 to 4 and 5,
Yeah.
but it actually happened earlier this time.
Yeah.
I planned it just happened.
So yeah, that happened. When that happened, I knew I was pretty much open and just running. So uh when that came up, I knew okay, like this is gonna be pretty fast to eight, just carry it. And those last two hurdles getting off nine, you know, I was just so focused on, all right, don't get caught, don't get caught. And also just being somewhere where I've never been before because I think the last time I ran that fast was 2021 and you know I've never been that fast to 8, 9 or 10 in my career and obviously the lack of you know not doing stuff leading into the world championship. So I think I just had a lapse in my mental judgment looking at the hurdle and it's just one of those things where you start thinking like, all right, do I stutter step or do I overstride? And you know, either or will be a detriment to the pattern that I'm on. So I kind of stayed in it, thinking it through, you know, whatever the 4 seconds that you have or 5 seconds that you have in between the hurdles. And, you know, it came up and I was just like, damn, it's gonna be my non-dominant leg. So let's just take this as best as we can. And, you know, you're in a fatigue state at that point and I'm thinking about like, you know, don't get caught. I was just so caught up on like not being caught that I mentally took myself out of the race for about it's probably not even a full second, but like probably a half a second, you know, just knowing because in my head I was like, yeah, I do not want to see this dude at hurdle eight. Like I don't even see anyone at hurdle eight. So I was just so in my mind about that that I was just blazing through those last, you know, couple hurdles. I think I ran 11:3 on the turn and they were like 11:8 um, on that second turn coming home. So that was my mindset. And when I hit the hurdle, then it just became a whole game of all right, stay on your feet. Please stay on your feet. Just balance, hold your core, stay on your feet. And then you got go through the whole process of now the lactic has caught up to you and now you have to regain the momentum that you have just now lost to the line. So that's why you saw like I got like that grit on my face and I was like biting down and just kind of making that ugly face, which I never ever ever do, because I was just trying to get back into, you know, that whole rhythm. And the whole field, like, thank God I like ran how I ran to 8, because it was just one of those things where if I didn't have that space, I would have I would not have won, because they
Wow.
closed pretty quickly. And Dos Santos was like coming. And I think in those races, like once those guys taste blood, it is game over for you. Like you can't, I always say, like, you can't make a mistake with these guys because they will punish you for it. I'm not sure what happened to the rest. I don't know if we were just too fast to 5, and everyone knew we were too fast. But usually, like, you make a mistake like that, like you will get punished for it by the both of them. And even Samba, who's found his form again and is running really well, and
Mhm.
even Ezekiel as well too.
Yeah.
He's really done a great job this year. But that was just kind of my mindset. It's like, all right, I need to get back on this horse and just run through the line and just please don't get caught. And I didn't realize how big the gap was, because I mean, I'm not looking up, or I'm not like doing what I usually do throughout the rounds. Like, I just focus on winning. So
Mhm.
I think for me it was just a lapse mentally, which like I should not have done. But you really don't know how to react until you're actually in those races, and you start thinking. And in the 400 hurdles, you'll get paralysis by analysis, so you can't think too much.
Yeah.
And it was like that, not even half a second, or that thought goes through your mind, and all of a sudden, like, you slipped, and that focus is lost, and things like that happen. So I was just happy I was able to stay on my 2 feet, and then you know just again, like, finding the strength to run through the line. And again, that's just to repeat 350s that we did, the hills that we've done. When you're on that last set and you just feel like absolute garbage, and you just can't really push out, and Coach Hayes and Coach Watts, in the past, have done a good job where they're just like, like, don't find it right away. Like, just work your way into it. So it's like things like that start flooding into your consciousness, and you just try to, like, encompass that, everything that they've told you in those last few seconds of the race. But at that time, it's just like, hell no, like, don't get caught, get to the line. But yeah, that was kind of my thought process, those last 2 hurdles, just
That's
not
good.
being, yeah,
Yeah.
not
Don't get
being,
caught.
yeah.
Jasmine, how about you? How do you handle the last 2 hurdles and the run in?
Yeah, kind of similar. I think like for me, setting up those last 2 hurdles starts with the whole last 200, which has been kind of like my problem area for the last 2 years as my career has been. But yeah, in Paris, I learned the hard way that my non-dominant leg, being on the home stretch on my non-dominant leg is not fun. I did the last 5 hurdles on my left leg, which my dominant is the right. So I just literally in those fast moments, I feel like I can literally feel like the 10th ticking by of like mistakes, especially when people are running at the same pace, if not like trying to like accelerate past you. So being in Paris and getting that fourth place finish, knowing all the mistakes and all the like places we could have cleaned up a little bit or places I needed to learn from was a bitter taste. But I think taking that motivation into 2025 season, I was able to kind of like think about that all year and prepare for it much better, knowing that my left leg is now much stronger at hurdling because coming from the short hurdles, you don't switch. So the
Right.
right is super strong. The left was getting there. So in 2025, my coaches and I talked about it all year that like, okay, we want to make sure that the last 100 hurdles, the last 100 meters of the race is on my right leg because I don't alternate past hurdle 5 or 6. So we tried a bunch of things trying to make sure that the legs would be on for those last hurdles, but it ultimately turned out to be just like wherever the race takes me and whatever steps that I end up running to make sure that I end up on the right. Like it was honestly a journey, but I was able to get that correct on all 3 rounds, which was kind of surprising in Tokyo. And I didn't run my race plan, but the plan ended up being to take whatever leg comes, but make sure that that right is there at the end. And it was. So I was able to just really focusing on finishing those last 2 hurdles instead of worrying about which leg was going to come up, which was nice, a nice change.
Yeah, great. Yeah, because you look strong coming through there. So that definitely.
Yeah, definitely
Joanna,
felt much better.
I'm sorry.
Definitely felt much stronger than Paris.
Yeah. Joanna, we've got a question in the chat about how you mix the volume and speed and all for your training in a weekly progression.
It will obviously it will depend on the time of year. So the fall and then the preseason winter and then spring, summer. So generally like on a maybe a typical May, right? If we're not competing, it'd be Monday. We'll do some more speed endurance type things, maybe work on the pattern. So maybe we'll go over six once or twice, something like that. The later we get, the less we do. Obviously, we taper. So maybe he'll go over six, then we'll do like a 400 out there, something like that, just to keep in the volume. Tuesday is really light, maybe some drills, or for ride, a lot of times it'll just be treatment and lightweights. He'll go to do his with his physio with Dunford, who's been really great for us, like a lifesaver for all of us. He'll go there, do some light work with him, and then Wednesday we'll come back and hit the hurdles again. Maybe the back end this time or something like that. Or Monday we may not even hurdle. We may just go straight speed endurance, right? And then Friday, depending on if there's a meet or not, he generally will go lighter on a Friday, maybe a speed day. And I think what's the interesting thing when it comes to ride, like especially with this year, as he discussed, is you have this plan and it's set. Like fall, we did a lot of volume. One day he said, I noticed that you really snuck in this volume on me. Like you really snuck this in. I didn't even realize, what was happening, right? Ride does not love volume, but I knew he needed some more. And especially we did want to break, we would love to have broken the world record this year. And I think we were on pace in training and what we put in, but the injury that recurred from 23 really was just recurring. It wasn't as bad, thankfully, right? Ride was, it was not as horrible, but it was not great. And but thankfully he put in the work. But that the fall we did, like he even jumped in and he even jumped and ran an 800 one time with Jazz and Raven and those guys in an 800-meter workout. It was his idea and I let him do it. But we did a lot of like some 450s, 400s, fives, fours, threes, right? So the tempo endurance was really good for Riot. It's not his strong suit, so he's gotten much better at it. He likes the speed. So, and we did do some speed endurance. We did like some 60s this year, like some repeat 60 sets and some 150. So I would say that I adjust a lot of the training plan to the athlete and what they may or may not be dealing with. If Rye's having something that's going on, we're going to make the adjustment. So we missed some speed days with all that. We missed some back end work that we would normally do. With Jazz with her foot, we miss a lot with Jasmine and her foot, but we had a big strong base. And I would say that this year for me in my mind was the beginning and the end is what put them on the podium because we had a really, really good fall and early winter. And then when the injury set place, especially for Jazz, it was a lot of changes. And then the last 4 to 6 weeks, we had to come back. We had to build right. Both of them had to build back into race fitness, right? And so this year was just quite different. A lot of it was conversation. I would call Dunford, hey, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? And he would say, okay, this, maybe move this around. And we had this relationship where for me, the physio coach relationship is extremely important because I have to trust him to tell me what their bodies are doing and then I have to say, okay, I'm going to take heed to your advice because I don't do the manual work on them. I don't feel what he feels. And so I have to trust though also that he understands what they need. So how do we do both? That's how I manage it. But with those guys, we do a good amount of race pattern things. And I would say where Rye excels the most is the speed endurance glycolytic area. And Jasmine, they're both speedsters. Jasmine does well there as also, but she needs more of the endurance than Rye does at this point. Rye made a point one day, like he has so much built up. Jasmine just is getting hurt. So that's why her workouts are generally a little harder than Rye's. He's done it. She's just like laid out And I did tell Jazz, I'm a coach who listens and I take heed. And Bobby, one of his quotes, err on the side of caution. And I'm big on that. I'd rather get them half trained or three-quarters trained and healthy than not on the line at all. And that's what I work on. But I did tell Jazz in the end when I realized her foot wasn't going to get worse and she had her little shots in it and PRP and whatever else. I told her, I was like, I love you, but I can't show you any love. So it was what'd you say one day? She was like, well, I'm feeling my foot. I was like, no, you don't. No, you don't. And I just walked away because I don't have time at this moment to feel compassion for her because I only can see the podium. But if it's an injury where it could get worse, then I back off.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to know the difference in how much you can and cannot push. But there was no way we would leave in Tokyo without a medal. And I didn't think it was going to be bronze. I had two options in mind for her. That was it.
Well, that's it.
And Riley had one option. It was going to be
Yeah,
gold or nothing. That was it.
it was going to be a long flight home.
It was Riley had one option, gold or on your butt, and he tried both. He got close.
Yeah, he wanted to accommodate your
He
wish.
wanted to play around a little bit. He wanted to play around a little bit with people's emotions. But yeah, so
Well, Jasmine, what in college you don't really have rounds, and yet now in a professional uh, championship you have the rounds. And like Rye alluded to it a minute ago about learning to run the rounds. How have you done that, and what kind of transition has that been?
Yeah, I feel like in college we do so many meets indoor and outdoor that I kind of race myself into shape. But then coming into like the professional sphere, you kind of show up to the meet and expect your shape to be there, depending on where you are in the season. So that was definitely a big change. But having the 3 rounds in Tokyo, um, because of where I was at earlier in the season and building back from the injuries, I definitely needed to use those 2 rounds to kind of feel a little bit more comfortable in the race and kind of make sure that I had kind of not a pattern down per se, because I wasn't sure how fast the final was going to be, but to make sure that I was in a comfortable position to kind of be able to game during the race and kind of figure out like, and to be comfortable to run a smart race.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for a young, DeAndre, go ahead.
I like your question, Sue. Go ahead, coach. And I'll
Oh,
ask after.
okay. Mine was going to be advice for a young hurdler, female hurdler who's in college right now is, what would your advice be either to them or to a young Jasmine?
Yeah, I'd say don't be afraid of 400 hurdles. I know it gets a bad rep for being one of the hardest events in track and field, but I think for me, being able to try something new was honestly liberating and made track and field feel fresh again. I think 100 hurdles was getting a little stagnant and a little just chipping away at those 100 seconds was making me feel crazy. So getting to try something completely new and getting to honestly be getting dropped time by seconds was a huge reward for all the hard work that goes into it. So it's definitely lots of hard work, but I think 400 hurdles definitely is rewarding.
Great, great. DeAndre.
Thank you. Thank you, Coach Hayes and Jasmine and Rye for being on. My question's for Jasmine and Rye. What has been the most significant lessons you've learned in the last few years of your career? I would say probably since 2023, 2022, transitioning after that Olympic year for Rye, and then Jasmine, obviously you transitioning, but what are some significant lessons that you've learned?
Hmm. Um, I'd say one of them is that it's called a season for a reason. It's a lot of it comes down to one moment, but the moment is built by every single day of the season, all the small moments in between where you can make a choice about what you want the outcome to be later in the year. And I think that's one of like the most difficult parts of track and field is that all that we do boils down to one moment, but the preparation for that moment is vital in all the moments that lead up to it. I think is a good lesson. That's
I would, yeah, that's nice, Jazz. I would say, don't take anything or anyone for granted. I think a lot of people get to the pinnacle and they get to the point and they win. And I think some people tend to feel like, yeah, I've done it and no one could beat me. And, everyone who hasn't won is just as hungry as you were when you didn't win. So I think being very, very intent with what you're doing, and, you know, just being like, yeah, just being intentful with what you're doing, I think is super important. And one of the lessons that I've learned these past couple of years is, just, don't take, it doesn't even matter to me if it's a semifinal round or a final, or if, the other guys aren't in the race. Like, I take no one for granted, because I think all someone needs is just that one good day to figure it out. And, it'll be difficult for everyone else. But for me, it's don't take any situation for granted. Don't take anyone for granted, and run your races to the best of your ability, regardless of not if it's a final or first round. And I tend to, like, it may look like I'm like playing around in the first round, but it's just one of those things where you don't run it too hard, but at the same time you put enough of an effort in to really assert your dominance. But I think for me, it's, don't take this thing for granted.
Excellent. Excellent. How was that, DeAndre?
Great answers. Thank you. And I got another one for both of you.
Okay.
Um, what's something you would tell yourself, like, let's say there's a big mistake that you made either in college or going pro, in the last few years. What's something that you'll tell yourself, hey, that was a mistake. We got to fix that.
Um, I say the only mistake that we really made was in 2019 after the Diamond League final. Um, and I just PR'd. I think we came home, and, everyone was like, rightfully frustrated. And I think instead of like taking a step back and realizing, how well we had done, and how fast we really ran. It was my first time running sub 47, but we just wanted to win so bad that we came home, and immediately, like, we were just like, you have to run 12 to 3. You have to run 12 to 3. And, we were forcing the issue so much, and I ended up getting hurt about a month before Doha. And I think we really learned from that. And ever since, haven't made the mistake of forcing things when they weren't there. So I think that would be the example for me.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think for me, one big one was making sure to like nurture relationships along the way in track and field. Um, I'm not sure if this is like kind of answering your question, but I think like the track world is pretty small, and I wasn't exactly a student of the game growing up. Like I was introduced to a lot of huge names later on, and I was like, "Wait, who was that?" And they're like, "That was Olympic champ from 20." I'm like, "Oh shoot!" But I think making sure to like really be present with people that you meet and to really learn their stories and to like get to know them is important, because you definitely will see them later on down the line, and those relationships can be super important, and not even just like your races and your career, but also just in life, and people who can give you experience and wisdom and help you in any transitions that you're having, or any like, and I'm sure they've been through the same thing you're going through. So honestly, everybody, the people you meet in track and field have a lot of wisdom most of the time.
Yeah, definitely. If you meet them on the way up, you're guaranteed to see them on the way down. So be ready. Joanna, are you able to do a question? Oh,
Yes, I can.
okay.
Uh,
Let me. Does anybody else? We're almost at the end here. Does anybody else have a question for any of our guests?
You know me, coach. I always have questions.
I know, so let's go.
Sweet.
Whenever you get a
Uh,
break, I have a comment.
go ahead, Alvin.
Hey, Joanna, I didn't get a chance to talk with you the last time you was on with Brooks, but you mentioned some things about ride training that you changed, and I actually did that with my high school team, and it made a tremendous difference because that year I produced a 4604 400 kid, and that kid ran a split of 4538. He's at the University of Florida. And those kids are running some great 400s now. Like they're just coming out of nowhere. So I wanted to say thank you for sharing what you did with Rye. And I think I sent you a message and I asked, since that time, and you've mentioned a lot of it that you're doing with Rye, but are you doing some of that over distance with him still in the fall?
Yeah, we, yeah, this is for Rye. Rye won't, he's not going to go past 500
Right.
ever. Well, he went to 800 on his own, but we may sneak at 600 in there. But what I've learned with Rye is the fours and fives, the threes. It's for me, I look more now at how much volume as opposed to how I get it. Right. So I can get
Right.
it anyway. If I want him to run 2,400 meters, I'm going to get it the way that suits Rye, not the way that may suit Jasmine or someone else. Because
Got it.
if I see a form breakdown or if I see he struggles, why would I put him through that when now what I've done effectively is mentally mess him up and physically he now is incapable of executing what I needed to see. So now the workout's either over or we just are spinning our wheels. So I now look really for a number that I want each day or each week, and then I apply that to the athlete and I make the workout from there.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, my pleasure. And thank you.
DeAndre, did
And
you have some
congrats.
more? Or Alvin,
Yeah.
you have any? Go ahead.
Okay. For Jasmine and Ryan, then I got one for Coach Hayes after that. But Jasmine and Ryan, as you guys deal with injuries and you're doing the best you can to continue to push through, and Coach Hayes talked about this. Well, both of you guys in the last few years have had injuries while you're competing at the major championships. What are ways that you go about processing the injury, but also being able to have the grit and the tenacity to still compete?
Yeah, I think luckily for me, being early in my career, a lot of the injuries that I'm experiencing now, I'm sure either Coach Hayes or Rye has experienced it. And so they can honestly always speak some type of wisdom and experience into that to make sure I don't spiral too far off of like with panic or just to make sure that I stay in it and that it's not over yet. But I think I was honestly injured a lot of the time during my collegiate career as well. So making sure to remember like the base that we put in and all the hard work and that like the one race is not the end all be all, but like to put in the effort to on the everyday get back to where we were on the training and to not lose sight of like the hope and the excitement that you have for later on in the season.
Rye, how about you?
I think for me is over the years I've learned that injuries are gonna happen, and how you mentally approach your rehab to those injuries really dictate a lot. Um, Also telling myself, you won't be injured for forever, so this will only last so long. And I've had, a plethora of injuries, whether it's foot, hamstring, tendon, back. Now, I've been through the gauntlet, and
Mm.
hopefully I don't have like any
Yeah.
anything else, any new ones. But yeah, I think that's like it's so difficult because, and especially as a professional athlete and in track, I don't think we don't do a good job with disclosing how we're doing. I think in other professional sports, you'll find out, such and so isn't playing next week because of a hamstring, or and you see that happen, but people don't get the glimpse into practice and they don't understand what's happening. And we also don't do a good job with disclosing that because I don't even know why, but we just don't. So, people would say like, oh, he's ducking, or, he doesn't want to do this, or he's scared, or he lost the last race, but, not knowing that someone was dealing with, a persistent, tendinopathy in their high hamstring. And it's gotten to a point now where if you keep racing on it, it's going to get worse before it gets any better. And you're just trying to salvage what you can to get ready for USAs and world championships. So I think for us, we've learned that, once something persists past a week, it's time to really address the issue and really not necessarily pump put full brakes on, but we need to slow down here a bit and figure out what's going on and go about getting the necessary medical attention. And I think Coach Hayes has done a great job with that in assessing, how everyone's feeling and adapting to, what it is that's going on, with us. And it starts with the athletes too. Like we have to be very vocal with her and be honest about how we're feeling, and what we're feeling. So for me, it's been a very, very interesting learning experience with injuries and knowing that it's a part of the sport. And like I said, once you jump down that rabbit hole of negativity, it's really hard to come out, and it's really hard to start healing when you're negative about the situation. So that's just kind of been my philosophy these last couple years.
Excellent ones. Excellent. Yeah, because that negativity, that'll get you, and I like it if it's still hurting after a week that, you need to step up the concern a little bit to see what's going on. DeAndre, do you have one closing thing for Joanna?
I do.
Okay.
I do. Thank you again, guys, for being on. Um, I Coach Hayes already knows I'll blow up her phone if I really want a lot more questions. But I have a question about just coaching at the professional level. What are some conversations like with post collegiate athletes seeking your coaching? And do you speak to their former coaches? Like, how do you go about that?
It depends on the situation, right? A lot of mine that I have came from with me, right? Rye, Jasmine, Ali, Jones, Johnny, Tade, like the majority of mine came with me. So I don't do that. Well, and her with Raven, I didn't, and not because there's any reason not to or to. I just think her situation was a little different. It didn't work out, so it wasn't she had kind of already separated, so it wasn't really the conversation that needed to be had. But I think that in other situations, if there comes someone that is coming fresh from a new coach, and I need to speak with them, I do. I would say generally, I speak with coaches from if their kids are in the portal, that'd be more of a conversation that for the collegiates, because a lot of times the professional athletes, they know what did and didn't work, and it's time for them just to kind of get something new. But if there is a situation where, let's say, Rye was coming from someone else and he had a history of injuries or things like that, it would be important for me to talk to that coach. But that would be a conversation. I'd say, Rye, do you want me to call your coach, right? Because as professionals, that's the professional courtesy I would give the athlete to make the choice. In college, it's more of a professional courtesy to give to the coach sending the athlete over, depending on their situation. So I think every situation varies, and just like in coaching them, that is an individual decision, but I'm always open and willing to do it. And if it's going to benefit the future of the athlete, I'm 100% going to make that call and have those conversations. Absolutely.
Excellent. That's really interesting, the perspective of athlete versus coach on that. Bazemore, you got a quick one?
Yes, Coach Hayes, you said something about talking to professional athlete coming from one coach to another. In my experience, obviously, I work with a lot of college, and I work with all sports. Everyone knows that. But don't you run into the egos? It's like, well, he didn't need to leave me, blah, 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 blah. I mean, everyone here knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Well, that's why it's different, and that's why it's individual, right? It depends on the reason that they left and on the relationship with the athlete and coach when the athlete left, and then the relationship that the new coach and previous coach may already have, right? But yes, there are the egos, there are the hurt feelings, and so that's why again, if the athlete says, "Can you call my coach from before? Can we talk?" I would make the call. If they do not want me to, absolutely it doesn't. It's a professional sport. I don't know if GMs are calling GMs in the NBA like, oh, XYZ. If they don't, hey, this is my guy now. I'm gonna just do what I do, right?
Yeah.
So I think that is, if it's going to benefit the athlete, that's what they want, then that's what I'll do. Otherwise, we just keep it pushing and they give me what worked for them and what didn't work for them in their own words and in their own experience.
Excellent. That's really good. Is that okay, Adrian?
Yes, thank you. Because right now, I'm sure a couple people know I work with Nick Marsh at Michigan State. The kid's probably going to go pro in about like 2 or 3 years. I didn't know we would live in this era, but right now we're living in the era where I had to have a sit down conversation with his financial manager, his agent, who happens to be Sauce Gardner's brother, and his financial advisor. Actually, they fund the tailgate for half the stadium.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, but we're talking millions of dollars. So yeah.
Well, make sure you get your figures in there. So, well, Jasmine and Rye and Joanna, thank you so very much. I really appreciate it because I think it's so much fun to have the athletes with the coach and to hear the interaction back and forth. And it definitely shows that you guys have that mutual trust and respect for each other. And that's why you're being so successful. So excellent. Well, guys, we'll see you next week. And if you have topics or people that you'd like me to reach out to and to get on, please let me know. And next week we're talking NIL. So see, we've got an agent coming on to kind of see what the scoop is on that. But I'll see you in a week. And again, keep me posted. Have an awesome week. And we'll see you next time. Thanks again.
Bye, guys. Thank you. This area's bad.